Morning everyone. Good Friday. Just want to briefly share a couple of thoughts. I decided that I read something and I'm going to talk about Gethsemane. I could talk about the cross, but I want to talk about this just fairly briefly. I'm going to read from John 18 now. I'm going to read from the Passion Translation. Here we go, verse 1. After Jesus had finished this prayer, well, what prayer is that? That's a prayer that he prays for himself, his disciples, and actually for all who believe. So for us. Jesus prays for us. The Bible tells us several times that Jesus still prays for us. But how about that? Before the Saviour goes to the cross, he prays for us. That's powerful. So then it says, after he had prayed that prayer, he left with his disciples, went across the Kidron Valley to a place where there was a garden. Judas the traitor knew where the place was, for Jesus had gone there often with his disciples. The Pharisees and the leading priests had given Judas a large detachment of Roman soldiers and temple police to seize Jesus. Judas guided them to the garden, all of them carrying torches and lanterns, armed with swords and spears. Jesus, knowing full well what was about to happen, that's the verse, went out to the garden entrance to meet them. Stepping forward, he asked, "Who are you looking for?" "Jesus of Nazareth, or Jesus the Nazarene," they replied. Now Judas the traitor was among them. He, Jesus, replied, "I am he." Now listen to this. At that moment, Jesus spoke the words, "I am he." The mob fell backward to the ground. So once more, Jesus asked them, "Who are you looking for?" As they stood up, they answered, "Jesus the Nazarene, or Jesus of Nazareth." "I told you that I am the one you're looking for," he said, and he tells them to let the men go. Here's what the footnote says. John 18:6. This was a stunning event, as the great I Am spoke his name before those who sought to seize him. It is obvious in the text that they did not trip over each other in surprise, for every one of these strong men fell backward to the ground by the power of God. That's important. Jesus was in charge that night as captain of the Lord's host. They could not seize him unless he permitted them to do so. What a wonderful Saviour, who willingly submitted himself to the hands of cruel men to bring us this gift of salvation. I've always believed that. I've always believed that when Jesus said, "I am he," the power of God was there at that moment. I said to you yesterday that in Matthew 26:53, Jesus said, "Do you not think I could call on my Father and he'd give me 12 legions of angels?" I said yesterday that those 12 legions could easily kill 20 billion people. The maths have been done. Remarkable. But in verse 4 it says this, in the NIV, Jesus, knowing all, it's a tiny little word, isn't it, all, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Who is it that you want?" And that's the thought I leave with you today. Jesus knew all that was going to happen to him. And that all, that small word, that anguish, that pain, that crucifixion, which the Romans later banned crucifixion because it was so cruel. Jesus knew all that was going to happen to him because of you. Jesus knew all that was going to happen to him because he loved you. Jesus knew all that he was going to face, and he was going to face that all because of you. He loves you so very much. It's not the end. When he's on the cross, he said, "It is finished," and it was. He defeated sin and Satan, and he defeated all of those things. But he rose again. But he still went through all of that for us because he loved us so very much. And I want you to remember him today, that he went through all of that stuff for me and for you. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen, still did what he needed to do. And he prayed for you before, and he prays for you now. What a wonderful Saviour. God bless you.